All right. Are we all ready? Is everybody ready?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to call this meeting to order of the Brawley City Council and successor agency to the Brawley Community Redevelopment Agency on our regular meeting, May the 3rd at 6 p.m. And roll call. I'll let the record reflect that all the members are present, and George Nava, the Mayor Pro Tem, is present by Zoom. And then invocation, we have Police Chaplain Sean Arvizo, the pastor for the Brawley Christ Community Church, will be doing the invocation tonight.
Well, good evening, friends. Let's bow our heads, close our eyes as we pray together. Father, we thank you so much for this moment, and we don't want to simply pray out of routine. Lord, we want to acknowledge who we're talking to, creator of heaven and earth. Lord, we thank you that your word promises to us that if we lack wisdom, which I know that we all do at times and seasons, that all we need to do is ask of you with no doubting, and you promise to us you will pour out your wisdom on us. And so, Lord, in this meeting, as there is lots of problems and topics to be discussed, lots of things to solve, we ask for your wisdom from heaven to be poured out into this room, into our minds, that we would have your wisdom on solving the problems before us. And I pray that anything that is not on the agenda that needs to be discussed, Lord, that you would have those things being stirred up. We want to see you glorified. We want to see the betterment and overall well-being of our community. And so, Lord, we pray that you would be blessed by what goes on in this meeting. So go before us, bless those who are making decisions. We pray all these things in the name and for the glory of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hamby, could you lead us in the flag salute?
Yes. Everyone face the flag. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Thank you very much. We will go to item number 3, which is the consent agenda. Items are approved in one motion. Council members or members of the public may request consent items be considered separately at a time determined by the mayor. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I think you skipped a page.
Oh,
Public comments.
There's
I'm sorry.
Approval of the agenda.
I just turned the page, okay. Okay, sorry about that. Item number 1, approval of the agenda.
I'll move to approve the
Okay,
agenda as
second.
written.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Okay. Item number 2, public appearances and comments, not to exceed 4 minutes. This is the time for the public to address the council on any item not appearing on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city council. The mayor will recognize you when you come to the microphone. Please state your name for the record. You are not allowed to make personal attacks on individuals or make comments which are slanderous or which may invade an individual's personal privacy. And please direct your questions and comments to the city council. Do we have any public appearances tonight? Would you like to approach the microphone? Please state your name for the record.
Eric Camilo. I live here in Brawley on 1st Street. I've been there for about 7 months, and within six months, they wrecked my car as it was parked. The reason that I'm here today is because the residents of 1st Street, north and south, all complain that strip, that 1st Street is used like a drag strip. They're going too fast, going towards Main Street and going north. They're going too fast, way above 25. I want some stop signs put on from B, C, D, and E, especially around what used to be Hawthorne Park. I think it's Gonzalez Park right now. There's a lot of kids passing by. One of my neighbors said that they ran over a school kid, and too many car wrecks they wrecked her car in front of her house, like it did mine. It's just too fast to strip there. We need stop signs on, like I said, on B, C, D, and E. In Longfellow Park, they installed stop signs. This place over here does not even have crosswalks painted. I see the kids every day running across First Street. Cars don't stop. It's been almost a year that there was a lady killed right there on C Street. I have a complaint that there's been in the 7 years that she's been there on C Street, there's been about 10 wrecks. No stop signs. I tell them, why don't you go to the city council? We work. I don't work. That's why I'm here. Need to put up stop signs. I don't know what the process is, but stop signs have to be put up there. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Camilo, for your comments, and we'll take that under advisement and we'll look into that issue.
Are you going to ask the Public Works to do a survey?
That would be the normal way we would do things, is to ask Public Works to come in and take a look at that.
Will I be notified?
I don't know that you'll be notified. If we place anything on the city agenda, you will be able to see that on our webpage, and you will also be able to see that posted if we're in any kind of discussion regarding stop signs.
All right.
There's actually one on there today, so
Start out there.
thank you very much. Okay. We'll go, any other public appearances or comments today? Okay. Then we'll go directly, I believe, to item 2D, which is introduction of the new employee, Fire Marshal Juan Rodello, presented by Mike York, Fire Chief.
Good evening, Mayor Couchman, City Council members, and City staff. Mike York, Fire Chief. This is certainly one of the more fun jobs related to my duties. This evening, I'd like to introduce Mr. Juan Rodello to our city staff and to our department. Juan is a 1995 graduate of Central Union High School. We promise not to hold it against him, but we will be monitoring where he sits during the bell game. Following graduating high school, Juan joined the United States Navy in 1996, where he served full-time in 2001. He was a reservist from 2001 to 2003. While he was in the Navy, Juan was a hospital corpsman assigned to a Marine Infantry Division. Upon leaving the Navy in 2004, Juan joined the fire service, working for Holtville Fire Department. In 2005, he joined the Imperial County Fire Department, where he worked until recently when he joined us. At the Imperial County Fire Department, Juan worked as ascending ranks before finally attaining the rank of battalion chief, where he was at before he came here. Juan is very well known within the Valley. He's developed a great reputation throughout our Imperial Valley Fire Departments. He has a great work ethic. He's very knowledgeable, and he has exemplary levels of leadership. I have nothing but high expectations for him, as well as the expectation that he's going to exceed those expectations. So without further ado, I introduce the new Fire Marshal for the City of Brawley, Deputy Chief Juan Rodello. Adjust it. It's fine.
Well, good afternoon, members of council, members of the public, city officials. Well, I really want to thank you for this opportunity. My service to this point has been always geared and towards community service, and my pledge is to continue to do the same. Right in this position that I'm at. I guarantee you that I will not disappoint you, and I'm looking forward for the challenges that come.
All right, super. Any comments from the council members?
Yeah, Deputy Chief Rodello, it's, as I said this morning at your swearing in, we're blessed to have you, we're lucky to have you, and the good word goes in front of you, so you have a good reputation. And I said earlier that the council together, we are working with the city manager and city staff to build a very competent leadership team, and you're becoming part of that, and so we're very happy to have you on board, and we know that good things are coming the good things that are happening in the fire department and in public safety will be built upon by what you're bringing to the table. So we're very happy to have you on board, happy to have this fire marshal position filled. It's something that we've needed for quite some time. So congratulations, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Super. Mr. Mayor, I do go back, I think, I was trying to figure out the years, but it's got to be at least since I've been in the helicopter air ambulance business. But I've had the pleasure of working with Deputy Chief Rodello in numerous capacities, but mainly out in the field. And he is just a great example, always has been, of servant leadership. Leads by example, kind of maybe a man of not a ton of words, but when he says things, they're followed and they're really on point. Deputy Chief, I want to thank your family too, because I know your life has been of service. So it was a pleasure to meet your wife and your children, and you're very well represented there, certainly. But I know that anybody that wears the uniform and the badge will not be able to do what they do without a very supportive family behind them. So very excited to have you on board. And I can assure you guys of my roughly 20 years of knowing Deputy Chief Rodello that we scored. So Chief York, great choice, and I'm sure the panel and everyone that was a part of that, we're very lucky. So welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, then.
Well, Deputy Chief Rodello, welcome. I don't know if you I felt the love right away, that instant connection. As Chief Duran can attest to, a corpsman is a Marine's best friend.
Right.
I still have, I have some interesting scars on my feet, and I'll tell you that story later, and it's due to a corpsman in the Marine Corps who helped me facilitate those years of,
But a
torture.
helicopter pilot is both your best friends.
Yeah, it depends, yeah. But yeah, absolutely. No, I'm serious. Any Marine would tell you the amount of respect that we have for corpsmen, and if you brought that, and I'm sure you did, that service with you to the civilian world and now here to our city, we're very lucky to have you. And like I said, I have nothing but respect for, starting with your service in the Navy. And so thank you for being here. I'm just excited, man. We're loading up with studs around here. I don't know what's happening, but I like it.
There you go.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Okay. Okay. Would George like to say something? I think he's on Zoom.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And Deputy Chief Rodello, I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person to welcome you and your family. I appreciate you coming on board. I certainly look forward to your service here within the city. And I can tell you this, it takes a big, dedicated person to do the job that you do. We look forward to that. I know I spoke to Chief York regarding his decision to hire you, and it was a tough decision for him, but he said that you stood out. And we have great expectations for you, and I hope you have great expectations for the city as well. It's not just one way. So we look forward to having you serve within the city, and I can also tell you that I really do apologize for not being there in person, but I can assure you that I'm the best looking of that bunch there.
Well, on the radio, right?
On the radio.
Yeah, on the radio.
Thank you, sir.
Obviously, the mayor has lost all control of this meeting. And so, I'll gain that back though right now. Juan, happy to have you on board. I think I remember you from the county. I think I've seen you around in many of the different activities that the county does, but also at different fires that have happened here around our city in the river bottom, and et cetera. And I've known Tony Rahotis a long time, who was the former fire chief for the county. And then I've also known Mark Hammerness. And so I'm sure you're aware of Captain Hammerness.
Yes.
And so, but I've known you and seen you around the county quite a bit. I look forward to having you here in the Brawley family on the Brawley Fire Department. We're real proud of our fire department, and we're proud of the things that they do on a daily basis here. And I see them out there every day, doing what they need to do, and I'm sure you'll be joining that. And then as a fire marshal, I look forward to some good things coming from that, inspections, the things that need to happen out there, and more safety for the citizens of Brawley. So looking forward to having you there. I'm sorry that I missed, I think there was a ceremony this morning. Would you like to introduce your family maybe to us?
Yes. Well, this is my wife, Rosario.
Hi.
My kids, I'm going to start with Rebecca. It's Jethro and Caleb.
Very nice, very nice. Wonderful family.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes. Tyler? Yeah. Okay,
Excuse me,
okay.
As you mentioned, we did have a small ceremony this morning where Chief Rodello was sworn in. Normally, we try to do a badge pinning at the same time, but there was a little bit of a conflict. As you notice, he's out of uniform right now.
I saw that. I
And,
didn't want to comment.
Since his family is here and we have done introductions, we would invite his lovely wife
There you go.
Very
to
nice.
do the damage, please.
Chief, can you
Why
take
don't
some,
you,
take some
Can you
pictures?
guys,
Why don't you step up here? That would be great. And the kids too.
there you go.
There you go.
You're supposed to punch it in, right? Something like that. Blood wings.
They're vying for position. They're vying for position.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. That's good.
We can call the paramedics if something happens.
You call the chopper? Did you fly choppers?
Not in the military. Civilian.
And would the council like to come down as well?
Come down and do a picture?
Yes.
Why don't we go ahead and do that? I know George is missing.
Yeah,
He's our
so that'll
photogenic
be good. That George is in here.
Camera will finally focus on the rest of us.
Well, you can turn the flash on.
be a glare.
I was like, why did you pick our side? Over there with Donnie, he's the tall one.
I was,
Okay. With that, I'll go back to where I was before earlier when I messed up, to number 3, the consent agenda. Items are approved in one motion. Council members or members of the public may request consent items be considered separately at a time determined by the mayor. Do I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
So move.
Mr. Mayor, this is George. I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Okay. And then city manager, item number 4, city manager report. Tyler?
Yes, so please no comments on the PowerPoint presentation. Hopefully I'll have some help in with that soon. But as promised, we, staff had promised to report out what these special events were costing us. Mondo, can you lift that, the thing out of the way there? But basically, these are our last 2 events. The cattle call event, which is a week-long event, in November 2021, the in-kind services amount for the city was $73,480, and the Cesar Chavez celebration in April of this year was $8,270. And we will continue to track these things and just keep council and the public aware of what these things are running us. So that's that. And unless there's any comments, I'll move on to the next item.
I have one question.
Sure.
Does that take in any income or profit that we make from those events?
That is strictly what our expenses are.
What our expenses are, okay.
That's an all-in equipment, overtime, staff, any materials, that's an all-in price right there. So, but it does not, the revenues are to that event through the city are harder to track.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask next.
But we have actually looked at some software that could help us with that in the future, but of course, that would be down the road,
Yeah.
depending on our budget, so.
Okay.
Also, that includes, that's like all the events during Cattle Call Week, right?
Yeah, that's the week-long
Whole
total
week,
there,
that's a
yeah.
whole week's expenses.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, yeah. that is-
Now, when we collect a little bit of fees from some of those things, I think, maybe a tiny, a
Well, the
small
direct
amount.
fees normally are the $500 for
Yes, and
street
that's what-
closures, so.
And that's about
That's-
what we collect, yes.
Yes.
That's in direct funds.
Direct, yeah.
The
And
rest
any,
is
well,
indirect.
not necessarily, there's also any temporary business license fees as well.
Correct. Which might be
Would be
minimal,
direct.
but that might be minimal too.
Yes,
I mean, I don't know.
they are minimal.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. All right.
Thank you for that.
Okay.
Okay, and then lastly, the item, one last item for today. The Parks Department is attempting to accommodate all whom are submitting requests for our parks and fields. You know, as our community continues to expand, so do the need for these parks. The requests far outweigh the space that is available. So in the very near future, staff will be presenting for your approval a draft policy to better define levels of priority given to various types of organizations for your input and comment and adoption. Hopefully, the goal is to have a clear and transparent policy that all parties can reference, reducing any confusion on how each facility is utilized. And that's what we hope to just make sure that everybody understands the policies and where each organization, type of organization would rank. And of course, you would have the final say to that policy. It'll be presented to you at a future meeting.
Sounds good.
That's all I have.
Any questions from the
Yeah.
council?
Something along also with that policy is when there are requests for street closures, as we discussed last Friday, we could perhaps add to, I don't know what the process is since I've never done it. I just want to make sure that people know well in advance, like there's a cutoff date. They can't come to us at the last minute.
Yes.
You know, so it'd be 2 weeks prior to the event, 3 weeks, or, you know, depending. It also depends on city council meetings, right?
Right. I would say the farther in advance we have time to vet the whole process and event, the better for us all, because there is staff coordination, vendor coordination. There's multiple, you know, street closures, et cetera, just a minimum, we would like a month out, because we have to meet internally to come with suggestions on how traffic flow and those kind of things so.
I believe a month is very fair.
Yeah,
I
that
think
is-
they probably should try to give us
Yeah.
6 weeks or 2 months, because sometimes these things pile up, and
Yeah.
so that can be a problem.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Okay, so that's it? Okay. So now we'll go to item 5, regular business. Item 5A is discussion and potential action to provide a letter of support to Imperial County's Lithium Valley Economic Opportunity Investment Plan, presented by Tyler Salcido, City Manager.
I'm handing this over to the county. We have Rebecca Teresa Baxter with us today, so it's all yours.
Great, thank you. Good evening. Do I control the slides with this, or? Okay. The roller, okay, perfect. Okay, perfect, just testing it out. Once again, my name is Rebecca Teresa Baxter. I'm the Intergovernmental Relations Director for the County of Imperial. Quickly, before I start, if I can just congratulate Chief Rodelo. We're going to miss you at the county. You guys really have plucked some great people with Chief Rodelo and Chief Duran right there as well. So it is a loss for the county, because you guys are wonderful people to work with, and you guys are very dedicated public servants, but it's definitely a win for the city as well. So just want to take that time and moment to do that. So thank you for letting me do that. Good evening, Mayor Couchman, members of the council. I want to thank you also for the opportunity to present the plan to you this evening. This is the Imperial County Lithium Valley Economic Opportunity Investment Plan. That's one long name. It's also referred to as the Alvip from the county. This plan was unanimously passed by the Imperial County Board of Supervisors in February, and it's a formal plan of action that is intended to help bring new economic investment to Imperial County. So the plan is a direct result of many formal and informal discussions and deliberations with officials, community leaders, community organizations, industry professionals, and dedicated staff, in order to make sure that we found that balance between public health, environmental protection, economic development, and community benefits. So since adopting the plan, the county has and will continue to work with the community members and groups and our regional partners at the state and federal levels in order to bring new jobs and economic opportunity for the region. Prior to going into some of the specifics of the plan itself and what's included in the plan, I wanted to give a brief overview for those who may be listening of what lithium is and why our communities are keen to benefit from this incredible opportunity to recover lithium in Imperial County while helping the state reach its climate and energy goals and our nation really become energy independent. So from this slide, you can see lithium is a soft, silvery metal. It is a rare mineral that is used in products from computers to household appliances, and it's a critical element of advanced batteries for electrical vehicles. So that's really one of the key points I want to make here. With California's ambitious energy and climate goals of reaching 1.5 million zero-emission vehicles on California roads by 2025, and the president's goals to decrease our energy dependence on foreign sources, the demand for lithium-ion batteries has skyrocketed, and it's created a gap in lithium supply globally. Locally, trying to figure this out.
Is it not working?
No. Sorry. Locally, this mineral can be found in geothermal brine. The brine is currently pumped from the ground during the production of baseload geothermal energy, along with other rare minerals such as manganese, zinc, and silica. For more than 20 years, we have been aware of these minerals that are available in the brine, but due to recent technologies and the high demand for lithium right now, lithium extraction is becoming more and more possible in Imperial County specifically. So this is why everyone is hearing or talking about Lithium Valley. Lithium Valley is right here in Imperial County. It is in a portion of the Salton Sea known geothermal resource area where there are currently 11 geothermal power plants operating. And this is at the south end of the Salton Sea in the northern portion of our county, which you guys are very familiar with. As many of you know, over the years, Imperial County has really faced many struggles, including chronic double-digit unemployment rates, high poverty rates, and lower median household incomes when comparing them to state and the nation. The Imperial County Board of Supervisors sees a combination of the increased interest of developing a domestic lithium manufacturing supply chain in our nation and the focus on advancing the production of lithium from geothermal brines in the Imperial Valley as a true opportunity to improve the lives of those in our communities, looking for a chance to earn an honest living and provide for their families. So the future is really bright for our county, and it's about time. We're really excited about this. So it is believed that the largest concentration of lithium in the United States is in Lithium Valley, right here in Imperial County. So Lithium Valley is estimated to contain 15 million metric tons of lithium. With that being said, the 30-day average price of lithium floats between $70,000 to $75,000 a metric ton, which means the potential for what we truly have is a game changer. The process to simply research the extraction of lithium will bring many jobs, and as the technology is refined and the process becomes more efficient, we anticipate thousands of jobs to be created. The benefits from extraction and ancillary businesses created from it will fundamentally change our entire region. We're looking really at vertical alignment with this. It's not just about the extraction, it's about what are the other businesses that we can bring with it. Is it gonna be manufacturing of the actual batteries? Is it gonna be manufacturing of the EV vehicles? All of that. So we're really trying to look ahead and plan for that. As you know, we are a unique binational region, and it's important to be on the forefront of any decision or action that will impact those that live in this region. For purposes of the Alvip, this shall be defined as a process by which Imperial County controls its own economic future as it relates to lithium, rare mineral extraction, processing, manufacturing, and renewable energy generation and storage. And we're really doing this to establish that our communities come out better off and healthier. The board took the first of many more transparent actions to come in regards to lithium development and the future of Imperial County. So in addition to the plan, to the plan adoption that the board took, we also created what we call the Alvip Subcommittee. It's composed of 2 board members, that is Chairman Escobar and Supervisor Ryan Kelly, who represents this district. We created an internal working group That's composed of staff, in addition to the 2 board members, mainly executive staff and some department heads focusing on planning, public works, and workforce development. We are exploring the economic viability of the enhanced infrastructure financing district. So we're currently working with SCAG to see the feasibility of being able to utilize that as a tool as well for encouraging some development in the area. We are developing a Salton Sea renewable resource specific plan and a programmatic EIR, which is an environmental impact report, to provide industry with some clarity and some certainty. And we will also conduct a Lithium Valley infrastructure assessment, specifically focusing on that campus area. So in the coming months, the board will also look and work to establish a Lithium Valley project ombudsman. We plan to, depending how things work out, seek voter approval to establish appropriate remuneration for lithium and rare mineral extraction and power generation and storage. And we are providing leadership to those in the private and public sector to make sure that the county and our communities benefit from any action or decision regarding this vital resource. So our goal at the end of the day is to protect the county as a whole, especially those communities that are directly surrounding that area. So now I'd like to kind of outline what the requests are that are stated within the plan that is before you. That we have of the state and the federal government in order to ensure success of the plan and to secure a better quality of life for all of our residents. So Imperial County is requesting that the CEC increase the county's delegated authority to permit geothermal power plants from 49.9 to 99.9 megawatts. That's a pretty big request, but actually ever since we made this request, at this moment, we are working with the California Energy Commission, who they are actually now proposing to, and they're considering a proposed rule change that would basically delegate its geothermal power plant authority directly to the county. So there wouldn't be a limit to that amount of wattage that they would be able to build as far as the size of the power plant. But that does require some additional work on the county's behalf. The county would also have to demonstrate an equivalent certification program, and they would still have essentially some authority over it as well, and some final authority. So it doesn't permit all authority to the county, but it does definitely increase our delegated authority greatly. And another request that the county has of the state is to provide $5 million to the county for the creation of the previously mentioned Lithium Valley specific plan and the programmatic EIR. Funding for a Lithium Valley Development Office, and the intention of this office is really to provide feedback and direct guidance to the development on project status and really shepherding those projects through the permitting and planning process, mainly focusing at the state level, but mainly focusing at the local level, but working very closely and helping them with the state processes as well. So we also were requesting support and assistance in the creation of an Imperial County severance tax or resource levy. That's what I had mentioned earlier when I was referring to the remuneration that we may be seeking. This resource levy would be for critical minerals where the fines would be directed specifically for infrastructure, environmental mitigation, and community benefits and enhancements. We are also requesting funding for either a Cal Poly campus in Imperial County or something similar, a higher education campus that is similar, or, we already have somewhat of a presence by San Diego State University, so we're requesting expansion of that presence and making sure that they focus on specifically lithium and STEM education as well, because there's going to be a lot of jobs related to that. We are also requesting seed funding for a reference lab for a lithium purity testing site at or near those specific facilities, extraction facilities where they will be. We're requesting annual funding for the period of 5 years for either a GoBiz tax credit or any other tax credit or business incentive that we have for lithium and rare mineral extraction at specifically Lithium Valley. And part of our request is also an executive or legislative action that would result in the exclusion of current and future projects that are within the specific plan that we are coordinating and planning right now, and the programmatic EIR as it covers those environmental reviews from further environmental review to assist with providing industry with some certainty, as I mentioned earlier, but also provide them with really a clear timeline for project delivery. They need to have some type of timeline and some certainty if they are going to be willing to invest So at the federal level, the county is requesting an allocation of $50 million to provide for road and bridge infrastructure to portions of the region where lithium and rare mineral and renewable power generation occur. We're also requesting an allocation of $1 billion of railway upgrades in the form of additional tracks, loading and siding and spur infrastructure. We're requesting $500 million in funding offsets for grid upgrades, an allocation of $500 million in direct funding and/or loan guarantees for companies that desire to build or operate end-of-life recycling and reuse facilities. As I mentioned earlier, we're talking about vertical alignment. We have to look at the life of it as well. There is a life to this battery. So we have to talk about end-of-life recycling as well. And that can definitely be located right here as well. So we can have everything here. It doesn't need to go any further. We understand there will be some expansion and there needs to be benefits for the state in this as well and for the federal government. But the focus is to really try to capture as much as we can for Imperial County and its residents. So those are all the requests that I've outlined that we're working on. But really, at the end of the day, the success of the plan relies on the support and the collaboration of all, more specifically the state and the federal government, because we are making these direct requests. But also we're hoping to receive support from our local and surrounding municipalities, local governments, of these requests and of the efforts we're currently making so that we can achieve success of the, at the end of the day, for the betterment of all of our communities and our residents. So therefore, at this moment, I would like to ask of this council for a letter of support of the county's Alvip and any related efforts towards the development of Lithium Valley and the forthcoming jobs, infrastructure improvements that are going to come, environmental mitigation, and community benefits that we hope and are planning to come with it.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, do we
Thank
need a
you very
motion?
much. I would like everybody, there's a letter in your package, but there's another letter that was provided to us today, and I think the letter that we will approve is the new letter that's a little more extensive. It has a little bit more information in it, and I read through it, and I think it seems fine, and I think we can support that, and if the council is willing, I think we could go forward with that, and then I think we direct city staff to go ahead and put this on paper, and then I'll sign off on it with your approval. And so, yeah, I'm ready for a motion if you.
You need a motion? Okay. And I know our Mayor Pro Tem's listening as well, so I'll make a motion that we move forward with this letter of support as presented, the hard copy version that's in front of us.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Any comment from George, Mayor Pro Tem?
No comment, but thank you for the opportunity.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody from the audience? Okay. If not, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you very much. We really
Mr.
appreciate
Ross,
it. Yes.
Yeah, my only question, I know it wasn't mentioned in here, but also, is this tied to some of our long, 20 years now of working on salt and sea mitigation? And there's potential there, correct, for the lithium
There's
extraction?
definitely potential there. As part of our, some of the discussions and requests that we have of the state is also how can we help to make sure that it supports the mitigation and the restoration efforts that are currently in place right now through the Salt and Sea Management Program. So yes, that is definitely, we're looking at that as well as one of those community benefits that we would get from this development.
Absolutely.
I would also like to comment that I appreciate the fact that you're asking for funding for higher education in our area. I would like the county, though, to really consider, we have San Diego State here. I think they're talking about a STEM expansion out here in our area, the north end, for their campus here. And they do have the campus in Calexico, which could also be expanded, I believe. What I'd like you to focus somewhat on that. I don't mind bringing another university in. I don't want two universities to be competing for a limited number of people.
Yes.
Now, I think by 2040, there may be a need for more than one university and maybe a few universities. But I think right now, let's try to coordinate with IVC and San Diego State and some of the existing institutions of higher learning to try to enhance what's already here, and then maybe bring in some new as we move along in the next 20 years or so.
Definitely.
I think that's important.
We're working on that at the same time as well. Actually, we are supporting the $80 million request that SDSU has, strongly supporting it. We provided letters Been working with the team also to see if they need additional testimony during any hearings or budget hearings that may come up forward. So we can do that. We have some lobbyists in Sacramento that, if we can't make the trip, we can send them also to provide that testimony of support. We are working also with IBC. I know IBC has already started meetings with industry professionals as far as they're developing their workforce development training programs. They are asking for assistance in developing that curriculum, and we are part of those meetings as well. So yes, we are making sure to work with everybody. We want to make sure to support locally and expanding what we currently have, but also see what we can bring to the area.
And one of the important things, I think, San Diego State is the distance. And they now provide, or they're going to be providing in the future, a shuttle for students. And so that will be a positive to get them back and forth from San Diego State. I don't know that Cal Poly could provide that same service in that amount of distance.
Yeah.
So I don't want to, say anything negative about that, but I think that would be a positive also. But I do think that San Diego State has the connection.
Yes.
So if we can positively improve
Definitely.
that.
And we know
that
that
would be
there's
great.
others from outside of the area that are looking to also maybe come into the area as well. And what we are doing is really encouraging them to work with San Diego State and IVC.
Exactly.
So we really want to focus on what we have here and building on
And
it.
if we can do that, I think we'll save money in the long run, but we'll also enhance the higher learning here in the real long term.
Definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And Supervisor Kelly wanted me to tell you guys, thank you. Make sure that you guys know that he has the community's best interest at heart, and he apologizes that he couldn't be here this evening, but I'm his substitute this evening, so
Okay,
thanks.
thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so we will now go to item 5B, update of City of Brawley declaration of local emergency as a result of COVID-19 pandemic, presented by Mike York, Fire Chief. And I think we have something.
Good evening again, council members and staff. Mike York, Fire Chief. A brief update related to the pandemic. What we're seeing across our valley is our numbers remain low. Just two quick things of interest. So our tier metrics, which no longer apply in terms of what's open and closed, but it's a good way to gauge where we've been at and where we're at now. We're seeing our case count per 100,000 is sitting at 4, which is incredibly low. What we are also seeing, though, is our testing rate, our positivity rate is actually climbing up. It's 11.1%, which was a very high testing rate. So the indication is that fewer and fewer people are seeking testing, and they're only seeking testing when they're symptomatic or they have a known exposure. It's just, we're seeing different indications across our nation, whether we're still in a pandemic, whether it's moving to the endemic stage, et cetera. We just still advocate for all of our public members that if they get exposed, to please get tested. Don't wait until they have symptoms, that they can still reduce the exposures of those around them. Last week we had a meeting of the Imperial County Disaster Council, and an update was given at that meeting that both hospitals will be demobilizing their surge capacity units. So the tents that you see at both hospitals, after these 2 years, they're going to be coming down within the next 30 to 60 days. They're no longer needed. Of course, there's still plans that they can remobilize those if needed, but the equipment and materials are not disappearing. They're just being removed from the hospitals, and those units will be shut down. If there's any questions, I'll certainly do my best.
I noticed that under hospitals, you have 3 currently hospitalized and 11 ICU beds available. Does that mean that there's no one in ICU right now with the COVID symptom, or are those 3 ICU?
I don't have the differentiation. So our local county hospital count has been removed from the county dashboard. So I have to go to the state website. It's not as detailed. It only
Okay.
gives the information on hospitalized and ICU availabilities. What
Okay.
we are seeing just across the board reporting is a lot less ICU admissions for COVID, which is an excellent thing.
That's a good thing.
Yes.
Excellent thing. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Any comments from City Council? Any questions? George? I don't know if he's there.
No comment.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll go to item number 5C, discussion and potential action to receive and file the annual comprehensive financial report for fiscal year ending June 30, 2021, presented by Carla Romero, Finance Director, City Treasurer.
Hello,
You're
good
up.
evening, council members, members of the public. I am here today to dazzle you with lots of numbers. I do apologize. This meeting has information regarding last fiscal year, this fiscal year, and next fiscal year. So lots of numbers, and yes, it is fun to be your finance director during this time of year. On Zoom with us is Ben. Ben was our lead auditor, engagement auditor for last fiscal year, so he will also be providing some commentary towards the end of this presentation. I'll turn it over to him, but I will be providing the bulk of the presentation tonight. Let's see here.
Maybe he knows. I texted him. Sorry, we were discussing
having a sidebar
budget
conversation.
issues here because it's so hot in here. We're wondering if we're in that much of a deficit.
So before we get started tonight, I want to take a moment and just thank staff for all of their hard work. This was not an easy audit to go through. It's my first official audit here with the city. But apart from that, we were still under COVID. So we did conduct our audit virtually, 100% virtually this year, which meant that we had a lot of Zoom meetings, a lot of back and forth emails, a lot of phone calls. The audit went from October 2021 through January 2022. We also lost a key staff member during this process that was the primary person responsible for the audit. So normally this audit would have been presented to you closer to December, but unfortunately we just finished it up about a couple weeks ago. We did provide full access, though, this year to our financial system, our new financial system, to the auditing firm. Before, they didn't have full access, so they were actually able to go into the system themselves and verify the information. We did conduct several interviews via Zoom and phone calls with several key staff members. We also had to reconcile the former financial system with the new financial system to make sure that the numbers presented to you during with the financial statements were accurate. So that took an extra level of effort from both staff and the audit firm. So I want to thank them for that patience that they had with us. The audit firm did issue a clean audit opinion, which is the most favorable conclusion at the end of the day. In this year's report, we also added on top of this some additional items that staff compiled. We compiled a new transmittal letter, a listing of principal officers, and an organizational chart. This coming year, we hope to add a statistical section as well to the financial statements. And then, again, like I said earlier, Ben will provide some comments regarding the audit itself and the process at the end of the presentation. Okay. So let's talk about some numbers. So what exactly does our ACFR include? Remember, the acronym used to be CAFR, and that is no longer allowed. And so there was a pronouncement which does not allow us to use that acronym anymore, but it's the same document. So if you're looking for major events and changes from year to year, you are looking to read your transmittal letter, which is at the beginning of the report. If you want to look at year-over-year changes, management discussion analysis, which is on pages 5 to 15, is the most appropriate document for you to read of the financial statements. If you love numbers, you want to look at your balance sheets, statements of net position, cash flows, and any budgetary comparison schedules. If you need it in English, look at your notes. There are 14 notes that basically describe to you what the numbers are, what they represent, different cash balances, receivables, anything is within those notes. They're on pages 39 to 66. And yes, we do review every single one of the pages. So there's just a couple of things that I'm going to highlight throughout the whole document. First and foremost is our governmental fund balances. We'll start with the general fund. We have non-spendable prepaid items for both the general fund and all other governmental funds. When we're talking about all other governmental funds, we're talking about all of our special revenue funds that are for like police services, fire, all of the development impact fees, street improvements, includes the Highway 111 relinquishment money. So that's that column, and then the general fund is segregated from that. The restricted amount there for the general fund is related to a balance restricted for library use. And then under governmental, you have, again, all of those restricted monies for street and road improvements, public safety, community development, and your community facility districts. And then under committed, this year, or last fiscal year with our year-end budget report, we did commit a little over $1 million. $500,000 was for capital replacement reserve, bless you. And then $558,687 was for operational carryovers, which are in this year's budget. And then this year's unassigned balance for the general fund is $2,770,506. And then you'll see there the total fund balance. It is important to note that even though we do have a capital replacement reserve of $500,000, our depreciation for equipment and infrastructure during these financial statements was almost $2 million. So that's the pace of which we should be replacing our infrastructure and our equipment. But we have set aside at least $500,000. And I'm sorry, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have as I go along. Or I can go back to. So the general fund balance change, it's always important to see how we're progressing as a city. So here you have 3 different fiscal years. These are audited numbers from the financial statements. What's important to note here again is that you have committed to long-term planning for capital replacements and the carryover of savings to be utilized into this fiscal year. And then also the gradual increase of our reserve balance. I know that comes with difficult decisions, but you see there that there is definitely better long-term fiscal stability for the city as we've gone forward in the last 3 years. So let's talk a little bit about long-term liabilities. Again, these are focused on governmental funds. We have our pension obligation bond. It does mature in the year 2032, but you see that going down as our principal is paid each year. Capital leases have increased because we have been adding new vehicles under leases. We did have some purchases this year, but last year we did 2 new leases. And then our pension liability fluctuates as the market fluctuates and our CalPERS actuarial statements fluctuate. One way to mitigate this or to help offset some of the costs would be to potentially consider doing a 115 trust. The 115 trust gives us a higher rate of return and allows us to do investments that are outside of the scope of our current investment portfolio for the city. So whereas our portfolio for the city is under 2%, a 115 trust could give you an 8 to 10% just on a kind of moderate scale. It could be more aggressive than that or less aggressive, but it ranges from like starting at a 4%. So if we took some of our money and invested it in there, that would give us a higher rate of return. Same concept for the OPEB, which is other post-employment benefits, which are health benefits for retirees. You see that also slightly increasing year over year. We have many retirees now, or an increased amount of retirees. We expect to have more next year. And so that liability will continue to potentially increase. And then the last item there is your compensated absences. These are vacation, admin, time due to employees, floating holidays. You see a slight decrease there. We did have some large payouts, retirements. Last year we had some additional ones this year, so that could potentially be lowered as those are paid out. And then new staff members come on board, accruing a lower rate of vacation time as they start their career.
Carla, a question, and I may have missed it. I was juggling a few balls here at the moment. But as far as the pension liability, did you comment on, or maybe you will, on the percent that we're funded now?
I don't have that off the top of my head, but I think it's close to 90%.
Okay.
Yes.
That's good.
Good question.
It's a good amount at 90%.
Yes, that is a good amount, but it's we have to remember that we took out pension obligation bonds that bombs. That was Chief. I'm just kidding. Perfect. That skews that number a little bit, in my opinion. It's because we do have some other debt that we're incurring because it was beneficial at the time council decided to do a pension obligation bond. So, but you're right. It is a high amount.
Yes, it's very strong, and I have talked to a couple of different banks regarding the Section 115 trust, and that is their comment, that it is a strongly funded ratio right now. But again, we see that trickling up rather than down, and so one of the things that we could do to offset that would be the Section 115 trust. And even if we establish it, doesn't mean we have to fund it 100%. You could do $5,000 a year, you could do $50,000. It just depends on how every fiscal year ends. You kind of take a look at your fund balances again, and you figure out, well, what do we feel comfortable with? And putting towards that liability, knowing that it's not going to go away and that we could potentially earn a higher rate of return. Oops. Let me go back. Where was I? Oh, there we go. All right, so let's talk a little bit about our proprietary funds, which are our business enterprise funds, water, wastewater, solid waste, in the airport. Same concept here. You have a net position where we ended. Most of this net position is invested in capital, 65%, which is that top line item there. We do have a small portion restricted for debt service, which is a reserve that is required within one of the debt services under the wastewater fund. And then unrestricted would be available for ongoing operational needs, capital replacements. You see the solid waste fund there has a lower amount, but we have to remember that our solid waste collection services are provided by an outside vendor, so that shouldn't make us panic in any way. So 35% overall is unrestricted. And then, and then talking about long-term liabilities for business types, same business types that we mentioned in the previous slide. We have notes payables. We have one loan that was paid off last fiscal year. 2 additional ones will be paid off this fiscal year. One that matures in 2025 and another that matures in 2032. And again, these are in the notes. I put page numbers on the top right on each one of the slides to tell you, if you want to know the details behind the numbers, those are the pages you would go to for the actual written comments regarding the numbers. Leases, we had no new leases under enterprise funds, so we paid a couple of those off, which is a lower amount. Net pension obligation and OPEB are also within these funds because we do have employees that are paid out of these enterprise funds. Same concept there. They're increasing rather than decreasing. Same 115 trust comments. And then again, the compensated absences also reduced slightly. So before I turn it over to Ben to give us some closing comments, I just want to thank him for the numerous years of service. He has been, or this audit firm has been engaged with the city since 1999, on and off, doing both auditing and accounting services. They've gone through several finance directors, economic cycles, multiple accounting standards implementation, software changes. This is their final year performing this audit. We did engage a new audit firm for a fresh pair of eyes and a new engagement for the next couple of years, but just want to thank Ben for his patience, going back and forth with me on several edits and comments, especially as we had our lead person kind of leave the city. So Ben, I'll turn it over to you for a few minutes.
Okay. Can everybody see me or?
Yes, we
Okay.
can hear you.
Now we can.
Okay.
Now we can see it.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Ben with Moss, Levy & Hartzheim, and I was the audit manager for the fiscal year 2021. As you've already heard, the opinion that we issued on the financial statements was what we call unmodified, and that's colloquially known as a clean opinion. So that's the highest opinion we issue financial statements. We did have one management comment, and that comment is available in the management report. I'm not going to go over that in open session. So I believe Carla has pretty much covered up all the financial highlights for the year. Regarding the funding for the net pension liability, I believe the plan's fiduciary net position as a percentage of the total pension liability is 89% as of fiscal year 2021, which is actually 1 year behind. So it's the disclosure is always is 1 year behind. So you are 90% funded effectively. So assets that you have invested in CalPERS as a percentage of their actuarially determined pension liability is 90%. So if invest grow at the discount rate that they determine, you're largely funded for actuarially determined pension payments to your retirees and current employees. And that's, like Tyler said, partially because of pension obligation bonds, because that number used to be hover in the 70% range. Going forward, there are going to be 8 GASB pronouncements for the fiscal year 21-22, and some of those had been delayed from previous periods because of COVID, so a lot of them have matured. So, now it's time to implement them. I would say largely they are immaterial to the city of Brawley, except for GASB 87 for leases. So the disclosure for operating and capital leases is going to change somewhat going forward. So a determination of the disclosure amounts that are going to show up on the balance sheet and also in the notes are going to change. So I believe Carla's already working on that, determining which contracts require which disclosure. So I wanted to thank City Council and management for the opportunity to serve the city in the past couple of years, many years actually. I feel like I do have a connection with the city because it was the first client where I was responsible for the financial statement preparation in 2008. So I was working with Fred Selk at the time. Made some mistakes and he let me have it. So I think he's still living in the city. I've heard that he comes around to meetings every once in a while. So
Fred Selk.
I wanted to thank Tony, who is unfortunately no longer with us. I think he was kind of instrumental for helping bring the city back on track in terms of financial statement presentation and disclosure, by reconciling a lot of the long-standing account balances as well as preparing a lot of the lease schedules that made our jobs a lot easier. Any detailed questions regarding the financials can be fielded to myself or Carla. You have my email address. That's all I had. Any questions or comments?
Questions from the council?
Mr. Mayor, just not anything expansive, just for my own understanding, what, by these pronouncements, as you mentioned, they're, maybe not hugely material to the overall audit and what comes out, but just for our understanding, what are those just specific on-record disclosures or something that are made in the note? What is it? What is a pronouncement when you say you have 8?
So GASB, what they're trying to do is they're trying to make financial statement presentation, and I have my own opinion on this, but they're trying to make the financial statements as a whole more transparent to users, and users are local residents, the city council, yourself, bondholders, bond councils. And so every year they go through this process of reassessing how the numbers and disclosures in the financial statements should maybe be tweaked to provide additional consistency, probably with FASB standards. So that's what I feel like they're moving towards. They're wanting governmental financial statements to be more closely correlated with the private sector in terms of disclosures. Governmental accounting uses a very unique accrual method called the modified accrual method, and that's not used anywhere else in the financial sector. So I think the opinion of a lot of the people that sit on the GASB board is that they're wanting some kind of, they're wanting some kind of reciprocity as far as looking at people that understand a typical financial statement, can pick up a governmental financial statement and get some idea of how the city's doing. So that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to refine the disclosure of the financial statements to provide additional transparency. Whether or not that actually happens, I'm not sure, like with leases and things like that. I don't think some of the pronouncements make sense in a governmental environment, but that's just my personal opinion. So when I say that they're immaterial, a lot of them don't even apply to the city as a whole, besides the leases and maybe one other. So if you want to read up on which pronouncements are coming up, I believe they're in
Page 46.
46. Mm-hmm. So the end of note 1, and that'll list out the disclosures that are coming up.
And GASB stands for Governmental Accounting Standards Board, support the public.
Right.
Thank you for that, and as clear as mud, thank you.
Oh, well. Any other comments from city council? Any other questions? Any questions from the public? No, not seeing any. Okay. Thank you very much.
Half of them are taking a nap.
Thank you very much.
I think we need a
you,
motion
Ben.
to receive and file
Yes.
the report, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll
So
need.
we're going to take action here?
A
Yes.
motion? Yes,
Mr.
we'll
Mayor?
need to.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like,
I'll make a motion to approve.
second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay. Approved.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we will go to item 5D, which is discussion and potential action to approve letter of intent and authorize agreement between City of Brawley and Cal OES to become a vehicle assignee and receive a Type 6 fire engine and equipment, and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement presented by Mike York, Fire Chief. Mike?
Good evening again, council members, staff, and public. Mike York, Fire Chief. What I bring to you tonight is a staff report and a recommendation requesting the approval of letter of intent. So the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services, also known as Cal OES, essentially what they've done is for many years they've had this program where they make available to local fire departments state fire engines. So these are so that we can respond to these multi-agency, multi-jurisdiction events, often called strike teams, and generally in the state of California, most commonly is when we respond to these large forest fires. It's mutually beneficial. So when we respond to these large forest fires, there's multiple different types of fire engines. Typically, the engines maintained by cities don't do so well out in the forest. So Cal OES has purchased a large number of these Type 6 engines. They're a smaller four-wheel drive engine built on a pickup chassis that we're able to get directly to the scene of the location of the fire. Again, mutually beneficial. So the state provides the city of Brawley with a fire engine on the promise that we will staff it and respond to these large fires outside of our jurisdiction. And in return, we house the engine. We're able to use it for local mutual aids, local response in our wildland areas, and on limited basis with approval, we can use it as a reserve engine to respond within our city.
Okay, that sounds excellent.
It's a
Sounds like
win-win,
good
I believe.
deal. Yes, it is
Yes.
a good deal, I believe, too.
Mr. Mayor, I read the backup material there, and I think it's pretty clear. I'd like to make a motion to approve the letter of intent and authorize the agreement.
Okay. Do I
I'll
have a
second
second?
that. I'll
I
second.
have a second. Okay. So with that, are there any further discussion?
I do have just a couple of quick
yes,
questions
sure.
while we wait for
Yes, go
Councilman
ahead.
Castro. Is there any extra obligation for the amount of a mutual aid we supply to the state when you have a rig from them?
So that's a great, excellent question. When Cal OES does make a request for us to respond to what we would consider a strike team, we are effectively guaranteeing that we will supply 3 personnel from our department to respond to a minimum of 7-day commitment. Frequently, strike team rotations are 14-day. Typically, we will already respond to these incidents with a city engine and 4 staff. So
Right.
actually, the staffing commitment reduces, as well as now the state does reimburse us for our personnel costs. When we deploy our own engines, the state reimburses us at a set rate for our engine, and they do take care of certain wear and tear and damage. But in this instance, we will get reimbursed for our personnel costs, but we're using their engine, and all damage, all wear and tear is on their side.
Very good.
Plus, we get to use their engine.
When we need
And
to.
when we have like rural fires here, and
Right.
your engine may not be the right fit for that, this would give us an added engine for
That's-
that purpose.
Absolutely. So the configuration of this engine is going to be perfect for what we call our WUI, or Wildland Urban Interface. So all along our New River bottom next to our city. as well as several other agencies within the county are also pursuing the same program, so that when we respond to a strike team, we'll be responding to a strike team of all similar
Nice.
apparatus is what we're hoping to be assigned.
This is like an F450 or something like that?
I believe it's a 550
Okay.
chassis, yes.
Nice. And are we responsible for maintenance then throughout the year?
So we're responsible for maintenance and records keeping. We're responsible for the first $100 of all maintenance. So if the maintenance is under $100, we absorb that cost. If it's over $100, we pay for the first. If it does have to go out, and these are brand new engines, they're still under warranty. And the state actually maintains the preventative maintenance program through a third-party vendor that will come to location and perform the maintenance.
Nice.
So
Makes
we're
good sense.
really,
This is perfect.
really what we're on the hook for is wiper blades, light bulbs, small things.
But it gives us a brand-new engine
Brand new.
that we use within limitations. I mean, we have some limitations, but we can utilize it locally for backup to other agencies, at county or whatever.
Absolutely. And if we were needing to use this as a frontline engine, we can make a request through Cal OES, and they will approve it up to 90 days.
Oh, cool. Very nice. In
Last
case one of
question.
ours breaks down or something,
Yeah.
this could be a fill-in. a backup.
What color is it going to be?
Bright yellow, and the anticipated look was included in the backup package.
Okay.
Bright yellow, okay. Okay, and I have a motion and a second, and this council member is rejoined. Now, let's have a vote on this. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Stay right there.
Yes, sir.
Discussion, item 5E, discussion and potential action to approve and authorize travel over 500 miles for Brawley Fire personnel to participate in a pre-construction and design trip for our new fire engine presented by Mike York, Fire Chief.
I feel like some of my fellow department heads. I have the Mike York hour up here.
Yes, well, they're coming.
So presenting to you tonight for your approval is authorization for 4 members of my department, myself, and 3 of my staff to travel to Appleton, Wisconsin. So as this council body approved several months ago, the purchase of a brand new Type 1 fire engine, our typical city engine. Part of that build process is to have staff from the department travel directly to the factory, working with sales, factory personnel, and even their engineers in designing the actual fire engine. These are incredibly customizable. I had the privilege in my career of attending twice. I will say it's very beneficial. We get out there, the manufacturer will have between 100 and 150 apparatus in various stages of completion. We get to measure things, sit in them, stand on them, walk in, out, see all the new innovations. And I will actually say at our trip in 2009, we purchased our ladder truck. We worked directly with our engineers on a new configuration that was actually turned into a standard configuration based on our recommendations. So the innovation comes from all across America, and it gives us the chance to dial this engine into exactly what our department needs.
Very nice, very nice. Okay. So, any further discussion on?
Were those innovations cup holders? Is that what it was?
I think so.
Is this?
I'll make a motion to approve the item.
Okay,
I'll second.
thank you. Okay. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, let's vote. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay, that's approved also.
Is it too late to add a council member? I'd like to.
Yeah, I was going to ask the same question. Could we come along?
I'm going to have some ideas.
This does not include a Green Bay Packer game, so just,
Oh, I know.
We did not time it correctly for Packers
No,
games,
for
unfortunately.
practice.
Thank
There
you.
you go. Thank you very much, Chief. Okay, so we'll go to item 5F, discussion and potential action to approve ordinance 2022 establishing installation of 4-way stop signs at the intersection of A Street with First Street and with 7th Street, presented by Guillermo Sias, Public Works Director, City Engineer. Guillermo?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Guillermo Sias, Public Works Director. This item is related to the complaint before from the gentleman that was describing speeding throughout some of the streets. This time is along A Street at the intersection of 1st and 7th. Because fire department and police department have received complaints about speeding in this area where there's people, especially kids, crossing these streets, going and coming to school, parks, and other locations in that vicinity. And due to this request, the Traffic Safety Committee met, which involves most of the departments with the city, to discuss the request and the need to install these four-way stops at these two intersections, and we came to the conclusion that it is in the best interest of the kids and the community to install this to try to reduce, additionally with the patrolling of police department on these areas, to minimize, speeding and try to increase the safety. So there's a resolution for that needs to be approved to amend the ordinance, and for the city council to approve the installation of these signs.
Okay. Any discussion, any questions?
Guillermo, will any of these stop signs include crosswalks with them?
Yes, there's already stop signs in the north-south direction of 1st and 7th. The installation of these stop signs will be on the west-east direction along A Street. And there's crosswalks on these areas where there's stop signs, and there will be also installation of across A Street together with the stop sign.
And I do think that people do tend to forget. We usually paint some crosswalks around the time that school begins, but by the time school ends, a lot of times those crosswalks become, they get erased with traffic as it moves through. So
Right.
it's something we can look at, but I
Yes.
don't know that we can continue. I don't know that we're able to fully resolve it all the time. I also don't think we're going to put stop signs at B, C, D, and E Street, because I think that would be too many. We might want to look at one of those other streets if the opportunity presents itself for us to take a look at that in the future.
But yeah, this is a good start. It's much needed. I mean, I live in that vicinity. Every time I gotta pick up my kids, I'm telling you, it's a real hazard down that 8th Street. And it's just, obviously, we've designed a city for cars to go fast. So that's what we have to deal with now. I think maybe not every corner, but I think this is a good start, but it doesn't satisfy the need there. And I did see police officers patrolling that area, so thank you for that. Gentlemen, so yeah, this is a great start, but I would like to see some more come of this.
Right, yes, and we appreciate the input from the public, because that's pretty much the main source of information that they report, that speeding, that is a dangerous situation, so we can review, analyze, and propose something. Like you said, Mr. Castro, that maybe not at every single intersection, but something similar like Cesar Chavez, a couple of key intersections that will make it work, but not stopping excessively, the traffic, or creating congestion, but at the same time, providing some sort of safety for citizens.
Have we ever looked at anything that would maybe perhaps activate, stop signs during specific hours? Like, it's only when the kids are coming and going from school, so it's from 7:30 to 8:30, and then from 1 to 3:30, and then after that, it's clear. It's just during those few hours. I mean, if there's technology out there.
We can't do that.
Of course, why not?
Because what would happen would be people would start running. What they're not going to, if you have stop signs. Do you mean activate them, so let them go, not stop part of the time?
I mean, there's speed limits that are inactivated. What kids are in school. I mean, it's 15 miles per hour, and then there's some that I'm just saying there's technology out there for all kinds of stuff.
Right. Certainly, fortunately, we are in the process to do some improvements on the traffic signals, and I know that there's a lot of complaints. I take the opportunity to apologize to citizens, because there's complaints about the traffic signals not working properly, but it's been very difficult to engage a company to come here and to do the basic maintenance. The other cities or jurisdictions that used to provide the service, they are in similar situations where they cannot provide the service to us. So we are actively looking for a company to engage in a maintenance agreement or plan or something concurrently with the grants that we are pursuing to do major improvements. And that will include the synchronization of these, so we can, let's say, play with the signals if easily. So from a computer, we can adjust timing, coordination, synchronization. Unfortunately, it will be just locations where we have signals. But certainly, I will talk to this company that did the evaluation to ask them for some sort of devices like you suggesting. Maybe there's something, that they know that we don't, and they can, we can implement it somehow.
Maybe it's possible, and I don't think you eliminate a stop sign, you have four-way stop, but maybe there's a way to light those stop signs up at a certain time of the day and not light them up at other times of the day, and maybe that might work, but you still got people stopping. You just have more of a warning that there's a stop coming, or you have more children in a crosswalk. So it's kind of like the crosswalks that we have where the flashing lights work, but maybe they only work during certain times of the day. Maybe they come on automatically. You don't have to push a button or anything. They just come on at a certain time, and then they go off at a certain time, and that might be acceptable.
That's great right there. Yeah,
I'm not sure on those factors. I think right now, we just want to get some four-way stops in there and get people used to stopping at the four-way stops, because what sometimes happens when you're putting in new stop signs is people will run those because they forget or they're not aware, and that can be somewhat dangerous to the pedestrians.
That's why Councilman Hamby mentioned the crosswalk usually helps alleviate that issue. But
correct.
I just want to think outside the box. As we travel to other cities, we see people innovate, come up with different ideas, different ways of doing things, and obviously a stop sign at every corner isn't beneficial for traffic, but I think that, if we think outside the box and come up with something that would protect our children when they're walking home from school, and that's what we're trying to do, right? I mean, kids, we want them to get off the couch, we want them walking, we also got to provide a safe path for them to travel home, so.
Agree. Okay.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the item.
Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a second. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Okay. Item 5G, discussion and potential action to approve the purchase of UV lamps and ballast for the wastewater treatment plant UV disinfection system for an amount of $36,512.26, presented by Guillermo Sias.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, please, this is a routine item that we've approved multiple times. And
yes.
It's, just a standard purchase. I would like to make a motion to approve the item, please.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Approved. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 5H, discussion and potential action to receive and file the fiscal year 2021-22 third quarter budget report and approve the recommended budget adjustments presented by Carla Romero, Finance Director, City Treasurer.
I'm back again, this time talking to you about this fiscal year. Brief presentation. We are on the third quarter budget report. I promised every quarter I would provide an update as our financial activities change of the city. Overall outlook, our revenues are on target to meet our budget expectations. We have strong construction and permit activity with Latigo Ranch, Morningside, Springhouse developments, bringing in, kind of going really, really quickly within the city limits. Revenue adjustments do focus, that are presented to you for approval, focus on grants, general fund taxes, particularly sales tax, property tax, and TOT, transit and occupancy tax for hotel stays, construction fees, recreational facility use fees. On the expense side, we're talking about unanticipated expenses such as increases in the special election cost for November of 2021, repairs and maintenance for vehicles and facilities that were unanticipated, utilities at the Lions Center, legal fees related to ongoing litigation, increased cost of supplies, particularly fuel, same as mid-year. Fuel was a big one there too. And then request for grants or special funds expenses, and then professional design services within the airport fund. So our general fund adjustments are listed here. Your revenues are on the left, expenses are on the right. So again, you'll see here our taxes are the ones that make up the bulk of the increase. The majority of these are related to sales tax. We have a strong sales tax base. Part of it is because of inflation and the cost of goods are increasing, and so therefore the sales taxes being collected are also increasing. Construction permits, $85,000 adjustment is recommended based on current activity and projections to end the fiscal year. And then some additional grant reimbursements and recreational fees have increased as well for a tune of $23,000. We're seeing a lot more use, as mentioned earlier today, of our parks and recreational facilities, which has increased the fees being collected for the use of those properties. On the right-hand side there, you see election and legal services anticipated increase of $117,700. The majority of that is for our election. The price of that came in much higher than we anticipated it to. We are still working with the county to figure out exactly why, and also so that we're able to provide you a better projection for next fiscal year. It was close to 87,000 versus 25,000 that we anticipated it to be. Yes. I know that they had additional regulations and things that they had to abide by the state, but that trickles down to us as an unfunded mandate, and therefore being charged to the city to be able to provide mailed-in ballots for all residents, the external ballot box here at the city, potentially additional staff having to come collect those ballots. So we're working with the county. We'd like a better answer, resolution.
So there's no breakdown yet?
There's no breakdown. We were only given a invoice. Yes.
Can we hold payment until they give us a breakdown?
We have not paid it yet.
Good.
Yes.
Show me the money.
I like you guys.
Yes.
Yeah, we should have had Mr. Raza.
No, we had her here.
We shouldn't let her out of the room.
Yeah.
And if I just may add, the balance for the legal is not for our esteemed city attorney here. It's for ongoing
His bill is much
litigation
higher than that.
related to the vertical bridge is what's hitting that, so.
I appreciate that.
Sorry, Mr. Smurden. It's not for you. For Parks and Recreation, we're seeing increases just in utility costs associated with the additional use of our recreational facilities. So you see a revenue increase, but you also see an expenditure increase for the use. I'm not sure which other ones you'd like me to kind of go over on here. If any, I can answer any questions, but the Exhibit B gives you kind of a detail of what they are.
In the revenue side, I know these are just adjustments, but is the UUT included in that, in the taxes at the top there, or?
No adjustment for utility user tax. Our ongoing
Because
revenue.
it hasn't been implemented yet.
Right, the new additional services subject to the UUT will be start collecting in June, so the remittances would come in July.
Okay.
Yes, so you'll see what happens here, though, is the next item when we talk about our budget is these particular both revenue and expense adjustments are being trickled into the next year's budget. So as we're doing our third quarter budget report, we're also doing our projections for next year. And so you'll see there's looks like a somewhat large variance in some of our revenue projections, but it's because the current year's budget doesn't include these. So you haven't approved them yet, and so when we bring back another budget study session with current budget numbers, if these are all approved tonight, you'll see that gap close a little bit. So these just kind of feed into next year.
And Carla, if I may just go off track here, but it relates just long-term planning and a concern of mine is under sales tax. Fuel stations is one of our top drivers for that. And with the state mandate of all electric vehicles, long-term, that's going to have a fiscal impact on the city that's not to the positive. So that's some things we have to consider at our June workshop for additional revenue.
So would the UUT cover the electric? I don't know what the electrical consumption would be in charging stations.
That might be some type of offset, yeah.
So I do understand that there's a special transportation tax on these vehicles. Will any of that be trickling down to the cities to make up for these losses?
There's a minimal amount that is trickled down, but it goes into the gas tax fund. And so it's not general fund revenue.
Restricted. It's
How
going
we
to be
gonna- how we
different. It's
gonna do
going to be a
this?
different culture.
Anytime it trickles down from the state, it's.
Yeah.
Anytime it
Very
trickles
little
down,
trickle.
It's a fine filter.
Sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack.
It's
but
okay.
That's
That's
some
fine.
long-term considerations that we're looking at,
Yes.
you know.
Maybe we'll raise revenues through lithium somehow that will offset the.
It's
Like
possible.
charging stations.
It's
or-
possible.
We gotta figure something out.
I got a different opinion, but
Yeah.
I'll keep it to
I'll
myself.
keep mine to myself, too. I get accused of
You and
negative.
Ben,
negative.
Yeah.
have your opinions.
Positive.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor.
okay, so,
So the bottom line for the general fund, if you approve both the revenue and expenditure adjustments, we would have a current budget surplus of $245,571.
okay.
And all of the adjustments that you have already approved, and including these, are detailed in Exhibit C. It's just an ongoing reconciliation for both of us, so that we know our financial system is up to date and that we are transparent to the public on everything that has been approved since the budget was first adopted. On that Exhibit C, it lists every single line item and the date that it was approved by council, and anyone can go back and verify that information.
Okay, all right.
Thank you for that.
Just two more slides, I believe.
Okay.
So this is the listing of all the other funds. We have a couple of different expenditure requests. I did want to point out at the bottom there, the Airport Commission is requesting an adjustment to the professional services in order to engage design services to potentially put a covered shaded parking with maybe solar panels on top, but that needs to be professionally engineered in order to issue an RFP to then get a cost proposal for that. So they wanted me to request that additional funding from you.
Would there be do we know how much money we would save by allowing them to install this? Do we have all the numbers of what it would cost and how much we would save in the long run?
It isn't necessarily to save money, it's more of a added amenity that is being requested for the airport. Currently, there is no shaded parking, there is no designated
vehicles?
parking for people that leave, that fly out of there, yes.
Can you
So
imagine
it's
if
more of an
they-
amenity that they would like.
Gosh, that's gotta suck. I mean, they should have their driver drop them off. I don't know.
And I assume the solar would be tied obviously to the hangar, right, to kind of.
Right.
To the electricity of the airport, I'm
Mhm,
assuming
yes.
it would
Yeah.
function to operate the airport.
And that concludes our third quarter budget report. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions from the council? Any questions from the public?
It's good to see the black ink,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the third quarter budget report as presented by our finance director.
Okay.
I'll second it.
George, are you?
I said
Wharton,
it first.
and who was the second?
George
was
came on
faster-
late.
I was
It
faster than
it was
George.
Luke.
Oh, okay.
Luke was the second.
There was a delay in his,
Yeah.
there was a
Luke
delay.
Luke was faster. Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Those opposed?
Notice
Okay.
2 weeks ago, I didn't make any motions or seconds on it.
This time you have.
Yeah, it
Okay.
was, because we had the delay.
Okay, so moving right along, we'll go to item number 6, which is your study session. Review, discuss, and provide additional direction on the 2022-23 preliminary proposed budget study session for the general fund, presented by Carla Romero, Finance Director and City Treasurer. Yes, there we go.
I'm happy to take a break if you need it, but my presentation won't be more than 10 minutes. Just depends on your discussion and what you'd like to go over tonight. Just as a reminder, we do have 3 additional study sessions, but happy to take a break if you'd like.
What's the pleasure of the council?
I think we're good. Let's keep rolling.
You want to? Okay.
She said 10 minutes.
I'm
Okay.
game with the majority.
Everybody want to keep rolling? Let's roll.
This is
Okay.
gonna go, this is gonna go.
Right, yeah.
All right,
All
let's
right,
roll.
go ahead.
We can do it.
So before I get started, I'll turn it over to Tyler to give us some introductory comments regarding the presentation.
Oh, I didn't know I was on. Okay, yeah, so some things to briefly point out at a high level. This is just the first draft for the general fund. As Carla had stated, we will be coming back with a final version that you'll have a final say on, and we're welcoming any comments that you have at this time. Some of the things, as Carla shows up there, no personnel changes have been incorporated yet because, one, the city manager, current city manager, wants to see where we're at, status quo, and then we consider any personnel requests, which we've had numerous requests from the various departments. And so those are going to be reevaluated, not reevaluated, be evaluated, see what we can put in, what we can afford, especially as it relates to the general fund. So this, just want to point out that none of those have been put in, but they're still under consideration. And we want to show you where we're at financially at this point without those. And some of those items will be discussed in closed session as well as it relates to personnel. Okay.
So what I'll be going over tonight is just very high level, what's changed since this current fiscal year, discuss some of the assumptions built into the next year's budget projections, and then, of course, our department heads and managers are here and available to answer any particular questions regarding their operations. So we'll start off with our general fund revenues. So our top four revenues continue to be our sales tax, property tax, vehicle license fee, and utility user tax. They do make up 90% of our total tax revenue. So it's about 10.7 million of that 11.9 million is from these four funding sources, these top four. And if you take those same top four and you look at all of our revenues, they make up 57% of that total $19 million that is proposed for next fiscal year. So on here, you see year-over-year changes. I'm going to go ahead and start with the ones that are negative and kind of give you a very high-level overview of why those are decreasing. The first one there, under grants, we have a reduction in our housing element grant, our LAMS program for the library, and then also the CDBG money for pool repairs. And so that's where that the bulk of that reduction is coming from. Under miscellaneous, interest, miscellaneous, and reimbursements, the negative 1.1 million is, the majority of that is coming again from the line center and roof repairs, where we're having a reimbursement and contributions for some of those repairs in this fiscal year's budget. That, of course, would not carry forward. They would carry forward as a carryover if it's not done before June 30th, but not be re-budgeted again. So, yes. So then the last one that transfers in, that reduction is related to American Rescue Plan Act money that is currently budgeted in this fiscal year for $500,000 into the general fund, but we'll be talking about that in June with the potential reallocation of that funding based on the final guidelines for ARPA. And then on the positive year-over-year changes, the first one there at the top related to taxes, we're seeing again that carry forward for sales tax, strong sales tax, utility user tax. Those two are making up $700,000 of that change there. The rest is our incremental increase for property taxes. So we're not being really aggressive here either, but we're not being super conservative either in next year's projection. So we have a very moderate revenue projection and outlook. We do expect there to continue to be a strong economy, so we haven't built in any recessionary projections or retraction or any of that nature. We just expect it to continue, which means that we need to have some continuous monitoring, just as we do with our quarterly reports, because we do have a lot of homes that are being built. And so the sale of those homes could ultimately change the revenue projections as we go forward. But we want them to sell first, right? We don't want to build in all of those assumptions. We want those out the door with occupants in them. We also don't know about any new commercial development that could come to the city and could increase the sales tax numbers. And so that's why we have that continuous monitoring. The other big change there with the positive increase is our fees and charges. That does not mean that we're charging additional fees and charges to the community. Those are related to internal allocations from our enterprise funds, the majority of that. So do you have any questions on the revenues? This is the one and only slide I have for revenues.
Just for next year's purpose, obviously, as we're talking about, some of those year-over-year changes are, as you already mentioned, they're kind of episodic anyways, right? So most of those, do you see anything there that's popping out to you, Carla, on, something going up where we're losing revenue, but yet there's maybe an expense side to it or something that's tied with ongoing? Because I'm looking at roof repairs, capital improvements, grant opportunities, CDBG. Right. It's all kind of, like I said, episodic, one-time
The one-time funding is like related to ARPA, the grants, so yes, a
ARPA.
lot of that is coming off. I will say that staff is continuously looking at additional grant opportunities, but again, we don't build those into the budget until they're actually approved and come to the council for consideration and approval. And so we could see, as we have every single quarter, when we've done our budget reports, we have brought to you revenue adjustments for grants because staff continues to look for other opportunities to fund expenses.
Very good.
Great question. So let's talk a little bit about our general fund expenses. On the left is the pie chart. On the right are the numbers associated with that same pie chart. We are seeing, even in this year's and next year's budget, that 77% of our expenses overall are associated with salary and benefits. So that's about $14.5 million of the 18.8. Again, I've mentioned this before. We are not a contract city. We are a full-service city with a lot of in-house services, and so that would be normal for this type of operation. 22% of the expenses, or $4.2 million, are related to operational expenses, and less than 1% is related to capital improvements or equipment purchases, so it's $84,500 of the $18.8 million. But what we're going to see a lot of the CIP, or capital improvements, is in our special funds, which I already gave you a preview of that in our capital improvement program study session at the beginning of April, and we'll be bringing that forward again the next meeting. Overall, what we're seeing here is police and fire do make up 53% of the total budget expenditures, so they continue to make up a little over half of the total expenses for the general fund.
So just to add to that on this slide here, I'll start at the top. Library services, that includes an expansion of hours, particularly to the Del Rio. That's been closed for over 2 years to provide some service to that underserved section of town. The final budget asked for information technology in general is probably going to be higher than that if we can make things balance. And then, of course, public safety with fire and police, there's could potentially be some there too. That public safety is a major concern for our citizens and an area of focus. Well, excuse me. Along with Parks and Recs, I don't want to leave Rachel out. We're back to full service there too. All our programs are active that were before, and even some additional ones. So, as you can see, we're getting back to normal and beyond with as far as services that we're going to provide, at least ask for in the budget to provide to the community.
If you look on page 190, it has the year-over-year changes within each one of the departments. Tyler, you just reminded me of something. The Parks and Recs has the largest, the Recreation and Lion Center budget has the largest decrease of about 1.2 million. And again, that's related to the Lion Center, the plastering of the pool and the roof repairs. So those are not ongoing operational. These are one-time capital improvements that are budgeted in this year's budget, and again, would be carried forward into next year with a carryover versus an expense again approved. So let's stay a little bit on, still one more slide here on our general fund changes regarding expenses. On the left, you'll see some increases noted. On the right, you'll see some decreases. A lot of the increases and decreases are related to things out of our control. Insurance cost, pension obligations, bond payments, but they are noted there. Just wanted you to know kind of high level what those changes were. We've seen a lot more employees taking advantage of medical insurance. Could be related to COVID and increased number of cases and people being aware of, the need for health insurance at a different level. And so we're seeing a large increase there that we originally did not anticipate for this year. So just kind of wanted to point those out. The unfunded accrued liability, these are only the portions associated again with the general fund. It's important to note that because we have our enterprise funds, and our enterprise funds also have pension, unfunded liability payments, salary and benefits. So those are also seeing an increase, but these are specific to the general fund year-over-year change.
Could you tie in the the graphic there? Why the different iterations of Superman?
Change. It's inevitable.
Okay.
And I have to make it fun. Thank you for pointing that out.
I was trying to make
Fun
the
for
connection
myself.
there.
Sorry.
Like Superman.
Yes. So our general fund summary overall, we have our revenues projected at about 19 million, expenses at about 18.8, with a current preliminary general fund budget surplus of $193,970. We are not anticipating any major revenue adjustments going forward as this budget evolves, unless there's some magic development that comes to happens and opens and is going to drop some money, major money on us. So we are also need to still put in our new vehicle leases that are pending into the general fund. Not a major adjustment, but it will be an adjustment to expenditures. Again, as mentioned earlier, no additional personnel has been added at this time, but is being evaluated. And there is no funding for reserves or future replacements built into the budget either. So that really concludes the presentation. The next budget study session will be at the next council meeting on May the 17th. We'll be going over all of the other funds, so you have them noted there on the screen, but I'm happy to take any questions you might have regarding this preliminary study session.
Anybody have any questions for Carla? George?
No, I don't have any questions, but thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for the presentation.
Okay, thank you. Yes, thank you for the presentation. Okay.
If there's any questions, comments, I'm happy to take them from you or the public at any time. As a reminder, we do have a page dedicated as well on the city's website regarding the budget. Citizen input is highly appreciated and welcome in order for us to make sure that we're serving the public to our best of our ability. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Nice
Carla.
presentation. Okay, we'll go to item number 7A, monthly staff report for May 2022, presented by Shirley Benias, Personnel and Risk Management Administrator.
Mayor, council members, fellow staff, Shirley Benias, Personnel and Risk Management. We get to cross one off. Fire marshal's hired. Okay, let's cross that one off. We have received numerous applications for the 2 openings in finance. Carla's currently reviewing them. Proposed dates for interviews have to be confirmed. We are recruiting for an HR manager. I do plan on retiring at the end of June. That recruitment has ended, and Tyler is reviewing those applications. We have 1 police officer opening still. We still can't seem to fill that. The police sergeant will be starting May 20th. Yay! And we're moving forward utility worker 2 and utility worker 1, and we have applicants, yay. And the assistant to the city manager, we have conducted interviews. So the final of that is still moving forward. The process is still moving forward. And I will, of course, answer any questions I can.
Any questions for Shirley? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is George.
Hold on.
Shirley, I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
With respect to the assistant to the city manager position, can you give us just a rough idea of how many applications were received?
Councilman, Mayor Pro Tem, I'll get it right here. Nava. I will answer that, sir, since Shirley was on a well-deserved vacation last week. I was handling that internally. We had a total of 68 applications. That's the total, with probably, I would say, whittled down to about 20 real candidates that I felt could maybe fit the position, and then we did 8 interviews out of that group. And so now we're reviewing the scores from our panel and moving forward with that.
Thank you very much for that update. And yeah, I heard from several people that had been interested and applied. So, and quite honestly, it was many people, qualified people. So that's great. Yeah. It's great to hear that, you know, Brawley's becoming a place where they want to build and grow on, you know, so it's fantastic news. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So now we will go to item number 8, which is our city council member reports. Mr. Hanby.
Thank you, Mayor Couchman. Not a whole lot to report. I was honored to be able to attend the swearing in of Deputy Chief Rodello this morning. And I made a comment similar to what Mayor Pro Tem Nava just made about the fact that we are kind of where we've had our good staff members and employees stolen from us over the years to other agencies. We're finally, the door has swung the other way, and we're getting some very quality staff members and employees from other agencies throughout the county to come back to Brawley. And as we build this team and these leaders within our city to put us on a better trajectory, a path to progress for a better Brawley, it's very encouraging to see the caliber of new employees and staff members that we're getting and leaders in our city. So that is something to be optimistic about and grateful for. I had a question sort of related to what Carla was talking about, but it's more a Parks and Rec question about the Lion Center roof and improvements. Those are going to be done in the next fiscal year, or those are going to be accounted for in the next fiscal year, or are some of them beginning now?
Some of it is design and construction management proposals are being funded this year. The bulk of it will be next year, and of course, as it relates to the pool specifically, we're hoping to plan construction around the groups that use that. So we're hopefully everything falls in place and we can move things forward where we're shutting down when it's used the least amount. And then the roofing, same thing. Roofing will be next fiscal year.
Okay. Okay.
But all those have been approved by council, the funding for those two projects. So it's pretty awesome.
I received some comments on a topic that we've discussed here and there, both in the library board meetings and in council, regarding the LAMS program that's been discontinued, and just, sadness, dissatisfaction with that program going away because of the history that we've had with it. Anyway, and the hopes that perhaps it can be rebooted with help from the county or more collaboration from the county, since it is a countywide program, streamlined or reformatted to still be able to provide that service to kids and residents throughout the county, but maybe in a different and more modern approach. So perhaps there will be some discussions that we can have with county supervisors going forward to see if they can take the bulk of the cost of it and whatever Brawley can contribute for the benefit that we get from it. But it's very notable that program lasted as long as it did in the city of Brawley, considering how we serviced the entire county. I mean, all the way out to Winter Haven, the far stretches of a large county. And Brawley carried that load for so many years. But I think it touched a lot of lives. And so that's why this particular community member was sad to see it go. And I hope that we can work with the county to reboot it in the future. And that's it for my report.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wharton?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple quick items. Had a couple of good conversations, more of an update. Speaking, I think, in our budget report, that Latigo Ranch was mentioned, and spoke with the developer in terms of, it sounds like inventory is moving pretty darn quickly. So it's not just kind of anecdotal as we hear that, real estate inventory, in particular in Brawley, is actually very, very low. So hopefully that time window stays wide open, I think is discussed in the budget, and we get new residents, new homes sold, and all those developments hopefully not only achieve success, but hopefully continue to progress and move on to the other phases. So again, I thought that, I note that as a positive. The other thing, just with reference to public safety, Chief, I think there's a lot of concern, not just in the city of Brawley, but really probably nationwide, about public safety and increase in things like crime statistics, especially in the big cities. So as those things are happening, I do want to continue to extend a kudos to all of our public safety officers, men and women, for the work that's being done, and Chief, really in particular, leveraging technology and doing the things that you've been doing, which maybe are kind of the small steps, but they're really small steps that have resonated pretty big. So I continue to get input on that. it maybe exposes more of what's going on around town, but I think that's been a positive. One last note, speaking of public safety, the fire chief and I had a little bit of, more of, I guess, off-campus time and bonding. We spent 28 hours and 15 minutes in a 12-passenger van together, running with some other teammates from Petco Park to Huntington Beach. We participated in a race called Ragnar and had a 12-man team, half of which were from Brawley, that placed 12th out of 247 teams from all over, so it's pretty awesome. And I will, all glory to the chief, actually, who I think had one of the toughest legs after we got 1 hour of sleep, and the chief did sleep on a cot outdoors in a sleeping bag. I think it was kind of cold, and got up and went out the door and proceeded to run that pre-dawn leg. So again, it was a great time, but I thought Brawley was well represented. I don't know if that was a political event, but I'm just calling it was, so we did very well. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's all I got.
I think you included the chief for the EMT services that might have been necessary for all of you running that far.
Very much, that's why he was in our van, yeah.
That's how I got that,
that's
yes.
exactly.
I think that was very, very smart. Okay, Councilmember Castro.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, congratulations. I saw that post on Facebook, and I was like, wow, you don't slow down. That's very impressive. I don't have much to report today, Mr. Mayor. I just want to congratulate city staff and thank them for the hard work that they're doing out there, from, Oscar sitting down there to the police chief to our city manager. Everyone's very responsive every time we need services, and the community as a whole is talking about it. We're kind of like the hot spot right now. Everybody wants to be here. Everybody likes what's happening. So, I can't take any credit. It's all you guys, because when I got here, all these changes were already taking place. But, I'm very happy to be part of it and be here with you guys right now. And so, we were just discussing some of a little side conversations, some of the changes specifically that I've seen since I've been here. So thank you for that. Besides that, I do want to point out, we got some calls about, obviously crime that happens in the area, and we assure the community that our police department is working very hard to take care of it. But one of the messages that I always deliver is the community is the first line of defense, and we should be looking out, for our neighborhood. So we should be reporting suspicious activity. We should be, taking care of our cars, making sure that we take, you take your purse out of there. Don't leave something there, ready for somebody to come and take. But first and foremost, we have to clean up our neighborhoods ourselves and do whatever we need to. Obviously, police and fire are there to help us at all times, but I think it starts with us. Clean neighborhoods and obviously reporting any issues and helping our police wherever we can. Besides that, I'd like to invite everybody out to the Taco Fest the Chamber's having this Thursday, Cinco de Mayo. I'll be a judge, so I think there are 20 entries, and we had to taste 20 tacos, right? So we'll see if I come in a T-shirt and stretchy jeans next meeting, that I ate them all. It's gonna be a lot of them, but I'm looking forward to it. And I hope, did anybody else sign up? No one else signed up to be a judge?
I might come eat.
Everyone else actually watches their diet. So anyways, I look forward to seeing everyone out there this Thursday. It's going to be a great time. We wanted to see stuff happen, and it's happening, so please join us, and I hope to see all you guys there.
I plan to be there. Yes.
Thanks.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Nava.
Well, thank you, Mayor Councilman. Congratulations to Councilmember Wharton and Chief York. Councilmember Wharton, when you first started out and said you spent so many hours with Chief in a van, I didn't
know where you were going.
I thought about it.
I want to congratulate you.
We need to control
on your accomplishment, the two of you, and the team, of course. But just quickly, I will be missing the Taco Festival. I am representing the city as the city delegate at the Southern California Association of Government annual meeting, and so that's going to take place the 5th and 6th, so I'll be out of town representing the city and being the delegate for that. So I hope all goes well at the Taco Festival. I think people are excited, and it's going to do well. I think there's a lot of vendors and a lot of participants, so I hope all goes well. Enjoy yourselves if you're going to make it out there and be safe. Also, I took part on behalf of the city of Brawley, but in substitution of Mayor Couchman, I did participate in a conversation with Congressman Raul Reese and U.S. Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm. They were at Cal State High School, and so that was a rather impressive event because there was representation from the federal government there, obviously interested in what's happening at the Salton Sea and lithium production, and so there was representatives from different areas, education, from the industry, from environmental and community advocacy groups. So there was a spectrum of people there, I think, and I think it just was a good opportunity for everybody to share their thoughts. So that made some national headlines, and that was it's good for us, obviously out here in Imperial County. And everybody has a little bit of different take in the room, different ask, but I think overall we all see that there is benefit if it's handled correctly, and I think there's benefit to all of us in Imperial County. I think we do need to advocate for ourselves. As I've mentioned, I just don't want to be forgotten. I think oftentimes, when there's attention here in Imperial County, we end up feeding the nation with agriculture. We do a lot of things, but it looks like, people come in here from out of the area, they take our resources, they take our benefits, and they forget about us. And I don't want that to happen with something like lithium production. So I hope that it does result in what's being talked about, which is manufacturing out here, job creation that's going to be permanent, unlike solar, as you know, that was just very temporary, and then there's very limited opportunities afterwards. So I hope this leads to something very positive for all of us. Calipatria is really kind of forefront there, and obviously we're the larger city next door. So I think we can all benefit throughout the county. But anyway, it was a good conversation. I do want to let you know that I was there on behalf of the city, and Mayor Couchman couldn't attend. He had a prior commitment, so I appreciate the invite. And that's all for now. I did also have an ICTC meeting earlier in the month that I'll share at a later date, but just want to thank staff. I know there was a lot of presentations here today, and our finance, and we're doing things that are better for everybody, and I really enjoy seeing that. I do want to apologize to all of you, not just the city council, but the public as well. I was hoping to be there in person. Of course, I always appreciate being there in person. I think I maybe missed 2 meetings in the entire 15 years that I've been on council. This isn't a miss, but it's certainly not in person alongside of you. But I do want to thank the public for their support, and thank you all.
Thank you very much. Okay, then to me. I did quite a bit. There's a lot of things going on, and the mayor's required to do a lot of things now that COVID is kind of winding down, or at least reducing down a bit, and so we're going back to meetings in person. We're going back to a lot of activities. I attended the State of the County in Calexico. Chairman Escobar was presenting the State of the County down at the mall, the Outlet Mall in Calexico, and I did attend that the other night. It was well attended by people from the South End. Weren't as many people from the North End, as we're well aware. But it was a well-attended event, and he did highlight the county, some of the things they're doing, honored some of the county people and some of the people that have passed in the last year coming from the county, and they did honor some of the county department heads. And he gave a real good presentation on the county, had some nice slideshows and a video about the county, and so I was able to attend that on our behalf. Also attended a little meeting, did a little brief presentation, kind of a pre-state of the city to a group called PEO, which is a charitable educational organization, a ladies organization that's primarily located here in Brawley. And I went to them and I gave them a brief overview of the status of the city and some of the things that are going on, and they appreciated that. I'm always in awe, and I'm really not surprised, but I am in awe that people don't understand, I think, the dynamics between the city operation, all the things that we do, and then our connections with the state and federal and some of the requirements that we have. And so I was able to refresh them and give them some information on that. And I think it is good to get out there in the public. I know the chief does, I know the other department heads do, and I know they get out there, and I know Tyler does. They all get out there and they talk to the public about what's going on in the city and what we're trying to do for them. And I think that's very, very important. So that was a good presentation. They appreciated that. I had I had 2 meetings. I had a meeting in Calexico with the Secretary of State for California, Dr. Shirley Weber. And she was down here on a quest to encourage people to vote in the elections that are coming up. And so the state has a move on to try to enhance voter turnout. And so she wanted to talk to a group, and I was invited down to Calexico to talk with her briefly at a meeting. A lot of people there, a lot of politicians, a lot of staff from the city of Calexico, and other people throughout the county came to talk with her about that. And she kind of wanted our ideas on what might enhance voting and why people are turned off and don't vote. And we have a lot of people in our area that do not vote. I mean, we get about 20 to 25% voter turnout in our area, and that's of registered voters. And there's many people in the valley, I think, that aren't even registered. So we do encourage people to turn out voting. Doesn't matter what political party you belong to, what you believe in. I think you do need to go out there and vote, because I think that's ultimately very important. And I was surprised to see that the actual Secretary of State for California came down to talk to us about that. And then I had another meeting here in Brawley, along with Tyler, with the Department of Conservation. So they brought down 4 people. They met with us here in our chambers here. They wanted to talk about hazards management. They wanted to talk about carbon management, and they wanted to talk about sustainable economic development and watershed management as it relates to California lands in general. And so they're not the enforcement wings of the state of California. They are more the oversight for lands conservation, conservation of resources here in California, and they wanted to know what they could do to help us. And so Tyler and I had a conversation with them regarding that. I told them, stop fining us, and that would be helpful, because every time they fine us, that comes from the general fund, and it comes from low-income people's taxpayer dollars, and everybody that pays taxes. That's what happens there. So I talked to them about maybe some alternative ways. If there comes a need or time to fine us, how could that be utilized to go back and help the community? And so we talked a little bit about that. I was surprised to see 4 people come down from State Department of Conservation. I think it's indicative that 20 years and 30 years ago, when I was involved in county government, we saw very few of that level of people come into the county. And now we're seeing a lot more. So I do believe that people have more of an awareness that we're here, that Imperial County is here, that Brawley's here, that El Centro, Calexico, and the other small cities are all here. So I think that's very, very important, that we get that recognition, and that maybe they're listening to us a little bit anyway. And so that's important, I think, for all of us for the future. The lithium issue comes up, and maybe they will listen as we talk to them about that. So, and that was what I did this last couple of weeks. And so I thank you all for that. I did semi-witness a major accident out at Twin Bridges, and I want to ensure everybody I was pleased with what I saw from the police department. They got out there very quickly. They controlled traffic. The fire department was out there and present also, and I commend them on that. And I think the young man walked away from that accident, which was very surprising from the looks of the vehicle. And so, but excessive speed does create that kind of an issue. So I want everybody to be safe. I appreciate all the work from the city personnel out there, and I see it every day. So thank you very much for that. And we'll go now into city attorney report.
So tomorrow starts the League of Cities annual city attorney meeting, which I'll be going to. And just think of me, because it goes long and they work hard. It's not fun, but it's necessary, because they really get everybody briefed up on what's happening in the courts, and they go till 6 o'clock every night for 3 days. So anyway, that's where I'll be.
For billing purposes, that's mostly Calipat, correct?
Actually, that's on me.
Okay.
Yeah, you all don't get billed for that.
Okay. Yeah, maybe we should. Okay. With that, we will go to item 10, which is our closed session. Thank you all for being here, and thank the public for tuning in. And we do appreciate that. And with that, we will take a little brief recess. Let's give us 2 or 3 minutes. Okay.